Hi, in case you're joining for the first time, I'd like to let you know there are links in the description below for all the programs I cover during the video. You can click on them, practice, understand the topic better, and you don't have to download a single software. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We start with tuples, and the topics we're going to cover are creating tuples, nested tuples, packing and unpacking tuples, indexing and slicing tuples, tuple operators, tuple methods, traversing tuples, and linear search on tuple of numbers and counting the frequency of elements in a tuple. A tuple is created by placing all the items or elements inside parentheses, and they're separated by commas. You can have any number of items and they can be of any data type. Tuples, like strings, are immutable. That means once they're created, you cannot make any changes to the tuple. We start by creating tuples. Our first underscore tuple is equal to 5, and we put a comma following that value. It will automatically change into a tuple. You can also assign values written within parentheses, whether a single data type or even a mixed data type. These are called packing a tuple. We can also use the tuple constructor function to change a string, a list, or even a dictionary into a tuple. So here we have these three. We try to change a value in the tuple, it will give us an error which says tuple object does not support item assignment. We take a quick look at nested tuples. A nested tuple could have within it a list or even another tuple. In case we want to access the elements of the tuple, we use the indexes. So here we have at index 2, we have a list output. And if we want to output elements from within that nested list, we need to use two indexes. The first one is the index of the element, and the second index is the element within that nested list. Here we have a nested tuple. So again, we use two indexes. The first one to indicate the index of the element, and the second one, the element within it. So it will output 15, 73, and 10. Another concept in tuples is packing and unpacking. So when we assign values to a tuple, that's called packing. When we assign the tuples values to variables, that's called unpacking. We have to make sure that the variables on the left-hand side must be equal to the elements within the tuple. A quick look at packing and unpacking tuples. Now, if we're going to define a tuple and put it equal to some values, that is called packing. If we put the variables equal to new tuple, in this case, each of these values will get assigned to the variable. So the first value will get assigned to A, that is A is 5, B is 6, and C is 7. If we print each one of them, this is the output we get. Indexing and slicing in tuples works just like it works in strings or lists. The index of each item in the tuple starts from 0, goes up to n-1. And when the tuple is read from the end, the index starts from -1, it goes up to -n. We'll take a look at indexing and slicing in tuples. So the indexing is actually just the same as lists. We start with 0 and we go up to the last index, that is 5 in this case. When we execute this, it will output all the elements from the beginning till the end. If we use -1 and go to -2, -3, so on, we'll see that the elements have been output in the reverse order. We can use 2 and colon, and we'll see that it outputs everything starting from index 2 till the end. If we use 2 colon 4, it's going to start with 2 and end at 3. So it's going to output only elements 2 and 3. If we use colon and 4, it starts from the beginning and goes up to index 3. If we say -5 colon -1, it starts from -5 and goes up to -2. If we use double colon and 2, the step size is 1 in this case. It will output index 0, ignore index 1, output index 2, ignore index 3, output index 4, ignore index 5. If we take double colon 3, it will take the step size 2. So it starts with index 0, does not output the next two. It outputs 50 and then ignores the next two. If we put double colon, it will output all elements of the tuple. Again, the concatenation and replication operators work just like they do in lists. The concatenation operator is used to merge or join two tuples. Replication operator is used to replicate a tuple many times over. The in membership operator determines or checks whether a specified element or item is present in a tuple, and this returns a true if it exists and false otherwise. The not in operator returns true if that element is not present in the tuple, and it returns false if it is present. Just like we had in lists, we also have some useful functions for tuples. Len function is used to find the length of a tuple. Min function is used to find the minimum value in a tuple of numbers. Max will find the maximum value within a tuple of numbers. Sum function finds the sum of the numbers in a tuple. The mean can also be found by using the sum function and dividing it by len function, or by using the mean function from the statistics module. Let's look at functions in a tuple. The first function is the len function, which is basically to find the number of elements within a tuple. In this case, it's 6. The min function will find the minimum value in the numbers given in a tuple. The max function will find the maximum value in a tuple of numbers. The sum function will find the sum of the numbers in a tuple, and the average or the mean can be found by dividing the sum function by the len function. Since tuples are immutable, there are very few methods to manipulate tuples. So we have the index method, which returns the index of the first element with the specified value. Count will return the number of elements with the specified value. When we pass a tuple to a sorted method, it returns a sorted list. We look at index, count, and sorted methods in tuples. The index method will return the index of the value passed to it. In this case, it is 3, and it's at index 1, so the output is 1. Count 20 will return 2 because there are 2 occurrences of 20 in this tuple. If I pass a tuple to the method sorted, it will return a list of numbers which are sorted. Since tuples are sequences with deterministic ordering, we can use the len and range functions along with the for loop to look at each item in the tuple, or this is also called traversing a tuple. We can use the range function, the len function, and the for loop to traverse or look at each element of the tuple and output it. In this case, we use the len function within the range, and since the range starts by default from 0 and it will go till len minus 1, we will get all the elements of the tuple as output. We can also output the elements of the tuple in reverse order by using len minus 1. Here we've taken the variable x as the length of the tuple, and we say x minus 1. We go up to minus 1 and we take the step size as minus 1. So in this case, it will end up starting from the last place and go to the 0th index and output each element in the reverse order. We can do the same thing for a tuple of strings using a for loop, the range, by specifying 0 to len and output each element. We can use for loops for linear search, where we look for a particular value or element within a given tuple. We can also use the for loop to count the frequency of a particular value or element within a tuple. A linear search of tuples of numbers is used to find whether there is an occurrence of a given number in that tuple or not. We take a user input, store it in a variable n. Then we use a for loop with the range and len function to check each element of the tuple. And If there is any element which is found equal to the number given by the user, then we look at the index of this and output it and break this for loop. In case this number is not found, the else statement will print element not found. The else statement has to be placed outside the for loop. Now, in this case, the user has input 56. So once the program is executed, it will show that the element was found at index 4, which is the first occurrence of 56. We can also use the for loop and the if statement to count the number of times 56 occurred in the tuple. We'll also use a variable counter, which we start by putting equal to 0. And each time the number 56 is found within the tuple, it will add 1 to the counter. Otherwise, it will continue to the next iteration. Now, in this case, since 56 occurs twice, it will output 2. So that was an introduction to tuples. I hope you got the hang of it. You can always go to the description, click on the links and practice the programs for yourselves. Don't forget to subscribe and keep watching.